Hello and welcome to this webinar by the Global Farmer Network. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you watching. Today's session is focused on elections and the farmer's voice. We have three speakers from the Netherlands, India, and Mexico. I'm Gina Gutierrez, a dairy farmer and the GFN's community outreach advocate. Let me tell you something about the Global Farmer Network. We were established in the year 2000 by farmers, and we are still led by farmers. Our focus is to connect, empower, and mobilize farmers worldwide. We believe in the power of knowledge transfer, which is why the GFN has created this webinar series and offer multiple approaches that focus on action, collaboration, and results that showcase agriculture as part of the solution on the main challenges facing humanity. Our membership is formed by 279 individual male and female farmers from 67 countries with farms of all shapes and sizes. Our mission is to amplify the farmer's voice in promoting trade, technology, sustainable farming, economic growth, and food security. We invite you to connect with us and follow us on our social media channels and also visit our website. Today's speakers, like I said, come from very different regions of the world. Our first speaker is Judith de Boer. She's from the Netherlands and takes care of dairy cattle on a modern and sustainable farm, where respect for nature and animal welfare are top priorities. She and her family have several projects for increasing biodiversity as well. She's an active voice for several organizations, including the dairy co-op she's part of, and is constantly engaged in policy discussions. Judith, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you all for having me and be part of this very important webinar. So, yes, thank you so much. So I will first tell you something about myself and my farm in the Netherlands. My name is Judith de Boer, and together with my husband, we have the Elihoeve farm. We're the fifth generation living on the farm, working on the farm every day. And we are currently living there with our three kids. Our farm is located in the central part of the Netherlands. It's called the Green Heart because it's a green area between four big cities. So we farm at peat soil. We have 40 hectares of land. It's mainly grassland, but also we grow some corn for feed, and we have some woods as well. We have 120 dairy cows and, of course, some young cows as well. So like Gina said in the introduction, a couple of things is really important for us. It's actually three pillars of what we do, and it has also have an impact on the decisions we are making from day to day to the long term. It's all about sustainability, innovation, and education. So as this picture, you might see a bit, this is a part of our farm. This was when we had an open farm day, and that day 6,000 people visited the farm. And during the year, we do a lot of presentations, tours from school classes to politicians, because we feel it's really important to share what we do and have people around and understand what we have to do for food production as a farmer. I'm a very proud member of the Global Farmer Network. I'm a member since 2022 and involved in all different kind of boards in the Netherlands, but also outside of the Netherlands. And I do a lot of speaking, and I'm also a columnist as well. So you might have heard in the news about farmers' protest, and I will share a little bit about the background of that, where that came from, but also what is the current situation at the moment in the Netherlands, but also in Europe. Policies and politics have a huge impact on agriculture. So I will share a little bit of the background of that and what kind of policies that have an impact on my day-to-day business. First of all, there's European policies. And those are more on the abstract kind of level. And the main one for us is having an effect, but also is important, is the common agricultural policies. The CAP, the Common Agricultural Policies, the CAP, was launched in 1962. So that's quite a couple of years ago. And their main goals was to support farmers, to improve agricultural productivity, but also safeguard a reasonable living for farmers. And at the same time, tackle climate change and make sure there's a sustainable management of natural resources that we use as farmers as well. Another main driver of the CAP is to maintain rural areas and landscapes all over Europe and also keeping the rural economy alive. So from 1962 till now, the CAP has changed a lot, although those main goals are still the same. Another couple of policies that have an impact on policies in my farm are the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy. And those are about being the first continent that's climate neutral, that's the Green Deal, but also the Farm to Fork strategy is important because it's about making sure that the food system is fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly. Another one is the biodiversity strategy, and that's about protecting nature, but also reserve degradation of the ecosystems. So although those policies are on an abstract level, they have an impact on my day-to-day farm. And within those CAP, every country has to make their own set of regulations. And in the Netherlands, a couple of them were really big, with a big impact on the farm due to nitrogen, nitrate, and manure. So that caused a lot of farmers' protests starting in 2019, and were even active in 2024, like 5 years in a row. There's been farmers' protests in the Netherlands. So last November, we had elections because our government resigned, not on a topic related to agriculture, but migration. And after the elections, it took quite a while to form a new government. And our new government is being installed just a week ago. So this is a picture of the king and our new ministers. There's been some changes in the departments. So before that, we had a Department of Nature and Nitrogen. That we don't have that department anymore. But I guess the main thing with this new governmental agreement is that there's more perspective for agriculture. The focus is on food security again, but also making sure that we as farmers can be as sustainable as possible with, for example, extra budget for nature and landscape management, but also understanding the craftsmanship that we're having instead of making regulations from like an ivory tower. Respect the knowledge that we farmers are having in our craftsmanship, in our day-to-day business. So last June in Europe, there were elections for the European Parliament. Those elections are also every other several years. And the European policies also led to a lot of protest in Brussels as well, even just a couple of days before the elections started in Europe. And those were mainly for the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy. So that already changed how the European Union and especially the president talked about the Green Deal. So after the elections, the biggest party stayed the same. It's the European Party for the People, but it will definitely mean new political relations, forming a new government. An important thing will be that there should be more impact studies done before policies is being made. So more realistic policies can be remain for us especially. In the European Union, we are facing several issues and problems even. It's about food safety, food security, especially if you're looking at the geopolitical situation at the moment. But there's also a growing population, not only in Europe, but also in other parts of the world where a lot of our goods and seeds are being exported to. There's also a bigger social impact on the rural areas. And there's also a really high age among farmers. And that's a problem, because if farmers quit, that's also having an impact on the social feelings of the rural areas if farmers are leaving and young people leave to the cities. But also climate change, not really in the Netherlands, but more in the southern countries like Spain and Italy. The climate change is being seen there, but also another issue is the earning capacity of farmers and of course the health, because Europe mainly are very good countries, but we see that health is becoming a problem because there's a lot of times overnutrition by people. So good, safe and healthy food is becoming more and more important as well. So it's really important that farmers are involved when it comes to politics and making policies. That's why the European Union started a strategic dialogue on agriculture in January, where also farmers' parties were invited to be part of the dialogue. And the main goal of this dialogue is to develop a joint understanding of the future of EU farming and food systems. And this is about how. So how can we give farmers or rural communities a better perspective and standard of living? How can we support agriculture within the boundaries of the planet and the ecosystems? How can we better use the opportunities that we have when it comes to knowledge and innovation? And how can we promote our food systems? So the results of the dialogues are not here yet, but I hope this will be really important for future common agricultural policies as well. So what we as farmers can do to create more realistic policies is making sure that we have a seat at the table. Because if we're not on the table, we're on the menu, right? So what we as farmers can do is advocate a lot. It means sharing stories, bring solutions to the table, not only talk about problems, but making sure that our solutions from our craftsmanship are being heard as well, and making sure that the policies will be integrated as well. So it should be about agriculture, food, and nature together. And I know this is a very complex thing, but it's definitely gonna help. And maybe what we can advocate for is also reward outcomes, not only output. Because as a farmer, we do so much more than just making food, produce food. We do a lot of things that a lot of people don't even realize or know. But also making sure that these policies and regulations make sure that we can work together, together with all different kind of parties, organizations, the industry, government, in order to support us as farmers, but making sure that the future of farming is secure, that people have good, safe, and healthy food. So thank you for now, and I'm looking forward to all of your questions.
Thank you, Judith. A reminder to the audience, you can post your questions in the comment section, and my colleague Ruger Mizo will take over the Q&A. We'll see you in a little bit, Judith. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Sudhanshu Kumar. He is from India and grows maize, wheat, lychee fruits, mango, bananas, and guava on 175 acres in India. He also operates 65 acres of orchards under micro irrigation and has solar power cold storage on his farm. He considers he owns the most technologically advanced farm in the state of Bihar and is an active advocate for genetic engineering, mechanization, and micro irrigation. Sudhanshu, good to have you here.
Thank you, Gina, and hi to everyone. Namaste from India. I'm a farmer. You got the background, so I'll just skip that and move to my presentation. how politics impacts agriculture everywhere in the world. India is no different. To understand this impact of politics on agriculture, we have to understand the Indian elections first. The elections in India are also called Lok Sabha polls, is the world's largest electoral exercise. It unfolded this year in 7 stages over a 44-day period of actual voting, starting on 19th April and ending on 1st June 2024. The counting of votes took place on 4th June. Why do we call it the world's largest electoral exercise? India has over 970 million voters, 498 million male and 472 million female voters. There are more than 1 million locations for polling booths. Total elections duration, if we include the date of announcement, goes up to 82 days from 44 days. This is from announcement to results. India has first past the post voting system, wherein voters cast a vote for a candidate and the candidate with the most vote wins the election. Why am I giving you this background? Is because India has 65% of people engaged in agriculture and allied activities. 55% of workforce is engaged in agricultural and allied activities. In this backdrop, we can see how many of those 917 million voters are farmers. It's a huge number. In India, pre-election time is very hectic, with politicians out to woo the voters with farming background because they form such a huge voter base. On the other hand, the farmer knows that this is the right time to put forward their demands. As the response is very swift, sometimes these demands and the agitation for it get out of hand. Other vested interests start making their way into these agitations and delegations, and the whole scenario may change. We have seen this happen in the past. Farmers, we have seen this happen in the past. Farmers get their way sometimes, or sometimes the whole exercise becomes futile. For example, in late 2019 and early 2020, though the elections were over, but the farmers were agitating against the 3 farm laws that were introduced by the government. The farmers perceived these laws to be against them. The agitation forced the government to withdraw these laws. It can be debated whether these laws were good for the farmers or bad, but such a strong narrative developed that it forced the government to withdraw. The government, on their part, should have spent more time on informing the farmers, educating them about the laws and the good they will do to the farmers, which they weren't able to do. One very awkward situation that develops in India is that there is always some election or the other happening. The state elections have a very big impact on the national elections. There are 28 states and 9 union territories in India. Then there are municipal elections and then the panchayat elections. These are grassroots village level elections. So there are elections after elections happening all the time. The whole scenario sometimes gets ridiculous, but then this keeps the government on its toes. The situation of never-ending election is a big disruptor in the nation's work, so much so that the government is thinking of bringing about an amendment to establish one nation, one election. Though all this gives the farmers ample opportunity to press for their specific demands, sometimes the farmers do go overboard with the demands, though the government always handle farmers with kids' gloves. But if we take the present election, which took place in April-May 2024, a farmer agitation was on just before the elections. It was timed so. Though this time the government didn't pay heed. Consequently, in 2 of 3 states, the results were impacted against the government. The farmers made their point, and eventually the agitation lost steam. These repeated agitations of farmers have a very detrimental effect on the farmers themselves. Most of them have to leave their fields and come to the agitation sites. Their work suffers. Most of the time, agitating farmers block roads and railway, especially the highways. These lead to traffic jams for days and months. They become disruptors for the country's economy, but they serve as a pressure point for the farmers. These agitations are sometimes successful and sometimes they are not. This is quite disruptive for the farmers themselves. Government, on the other hand, has been constantly engaging the farmers. The Agriculture Ministry and the other government agencies often sit and talk to the farmers through committees which have all the stakeholders as members. A lot of farmers are chosen to be members at different state and national level. There are pre-budget meets at the state and the center with farmers. The Niti Aayog, the apex planning body, regularly engages the farmers to sort out their grievances. This conversation between the farmer and the government keeps happening. There have been positive impacts of all these engagements. The minimum support price for different cereals, etc., has been established as per the farmer's demand. Though some wrinkles remain, fertilizer subsidies, insurance, and other demands of the farmers have been taken up. The government has also started to give a fixed amount of money directly into the accounts of the farmers in installments. Every installment costs the government more than 2 billion rupees. There are 3 installments in a year. The government tries to appease, or we can say, look after the farmers, knowing their electoral strength. I have been fortunate to have attended the budgetary meet on farming roadmaps, and I have been on committee for Niti Aayog as a farmer representative. I have also attended meetings by the Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. They decide the minimum support price of crops. Seeing policy being made at such close quarters gives me hope. And I also understand that there will always be a gap in our wants as a farmer and the government's ability to fill those gaps. The only thing that worries me is that agitation leads to appeasement. And as a reaction, the government enacts laws or amends laws. This shouldn't be happening. Why should there have to be an agitation around elections for the government to respond? Policy should be happening automatically. Pros and cons discussed with farmers. Suitable amendments should take place across the table and not on the roads. All said and done, as of today, I can see a vast change in the farming scenario and in the income of the farmers. I can see farmers adopting technology and new methods of farming. Farmers have become conscious of climate resilient technology, as climate has also become a big disruptor in farmers' income. The only concern of mine is the government absolute negative attitude towards GM crop. The present government feels this technology is not needed in India, which I personally feel is wrong. Why deprive the farmers of the latest technology to enhance their income, to use it as a tool to fight the weather, to make agriculture more profitable? To conclude, I would say that there is a perceptible change in Indian agriculture. I am very optimistic for the future of farming in India. I also know politics and agriculture will go on. Election time will always be the litmus test for the government's policy towards the farmers. There will always be a churning, and I'm confident that good will always come out of this political churning for farmers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudhanshu. I'm also optimistic for you. And what a important message that you shared in having one of the biggest election systems in the world in your country. We'll come back to you as soon as our third speaker concludes his presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jose Luis Quintana from Mexico. He farms with 3 generations of his family. His own agricultural company has reached 250 acres of arable land, growing alfalfa, peanuts, wheat, corn, and cotton. On an additional 4,000 acres, he raises cattle using regenerative livestock practices. Welcome, Jose Luis, and good morning to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me and giving the option and the opportunity to share my perspective about Mexico's 2024 elections. As Gina mentioned, I'm also, as well as a farmer, a third-generation farmer. I'm a biotechnology engineer with a master's degree in innovation for business development at the Tecnológico de Monterrey in Chihuahua. My farm is located in north of Mexico, in Chihuahua, where we are almost in a desert right here, but we have some infrastructure that let us to keep raising food for people and also for the animals. So I also have some professional background in technology projects. For example, some projects that are focused in pregnancy detection in cows, And I also participate in the Kirchner Food Fellowship this on a whole year. And the last year I get selected, where we have the opportunity to learn how an impact investor can look for a company, invest money in some startups that are focusing in food security in Mexico. And also in 2017, I had the opportunity to be part of the iGEM team that is focused on developing a project in genetic engineering and molecular biology, also focused on agriculture problems. So this is my background, and well, I will love to have some context about the largest elections in democratic history in Mexico, because in this year we have one federal president election, a lot of federal senators, federal deputies, and also a lot of local, state, and Congress positions in the whole country. Most of the states were in this process, so we have a lot of political marketing, a lot of information that we must digest and must take to study and make a decision for who were the people that are representing us in the public decisions. So before I go further, I would love to put a little context what happened in this almost actual administrative practices with Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Basically, I focus this in three main topics. The main one, we have the TMEC agreement, Canada and United States, where there are a lot of benefits for a lot of industries, but specifically in the agricultural sectors, the government stay in the position that they will not allow to have GM crops or to raise GM crops here in our country, but they do not invest in our practices to reach our sovereignty food production. So in these 6 years, we do not have an agreement in the imports for corn, and we don't have also a solution for guaranteed prices for corn, rice, and beans. So basically, as we started in 2018, we finished the same way in 2024. I'm really aware that this situation is not only for these 6 years. This situation is almost like two administrative periods in the same way. So, well, we don't have some change. Also, we have one of the worst water scarcity crises in Mexico history mainly because our obsolete and destroyed water distribution system, and also, of course, corruption. And again, almost in these 6 years, nothing changed at all that make us to make different things. And the last thing is, as I mentioned, we have a lack on technological adoption, and also a lack of on investment to promote sustainable techniques that led us to do different things in our food production. For example, using less chemical fertilizers, and I don't know, like those things that people are right now willing to get off. So, well, right now we'd love to talk about what are the expectations for the next period of administrative politics. So, well, I do some research, and basically in this new administrative term, they are focusing on one topic, well, two topics: food security and food sovereignty, in three different pillars. The first one, they will focus on rural population wellness. What do they mean with this? They will promote better conditions, decrease the extreme poverty in rural population to 2%, and they will focus on support in the same way to small, medium, and large farmers. But well, I also were reading some articles that mention that at least for the next year, 2025, the situation in agriculture will be the same one. Why? Because the prices projected for the next year from corn, beans, and other crops will not increase. And also, our technology is not enough to increase the yield or the tons per acre to maximum the reliability of the business. So at least for the next year will be in the same situation. And the second one is water technology and optimization infrastructure. They are planning to have some recover in water basins. What do they mean? To perform some restructure in the dumps, for example, water distribution, and also the storage. So they also want to invest in technology to maximum optimization and water usage, because at least 75% of the whole water in Mexico is used in agriculture, and almost 40% of this is wasted. So I think I hope this not only be like promises and lies for us. I hope that we can have finally some investment in our sector. And well, the final aspect is a national production for consumption and exports. Well, unfortunately, our new director of the agriculture department is having the same position as the other administrative period of not letting produce GM crops in our country to preserve the native corn of Mexico. And but they are at least open to import GM yellow corn for only livestock consumption and other industry uses or applications. So well, at least we have some hope here about doing things different. But something that of course worry a lot the farmers is the prices. So if the imports are cheaper than our national production, how our farmers will compete in the same scenario or the same context with those prices. So of course we need to implement new technology, not only in food production, also in food protection and soil restoration, and also in resources optimization. So well, here is our new SADER leader, that is the agriculture department director, Julio Verdeguer. At least for me, it's like more hope, I think, seeing one person with this background, with a lot of international universities programs, for example, some PhD in one of the best universities in the world, that is in Netherlands. Judith will support this. Also, they have a lot of background in the United States and in different universities. And they also have experience in the FAO. They lead the Latin American and Caribbean section. And they also were part of the CIMMYT president and board of director president. So at least I think that right now we are in a specific context where people, well, farmers can be allowed to speak up and to be heard about what are the most important topics that we need to prioritize of addressing, and which topics are like the more urgent ones. And well, of course. So I'm really well right now. I'm really hopeful to having a different perspective and different manage of our culture in Mexico, because he's also an intellectual property creation person. So well, I think that we can be in the right pathway to change things in Mexico right now. So basically, this is what information that I got today. I'm open to hear some questions and some comments if there is in the space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose Luis. Very valuable presentation. And as a Mexican, I also do hope for our new Secretary of Agriculture, Julio Verdaguer, to take a pragmatic and practical approach with his background in research and developing of technologies. I'm going to turn the stage to my colleague, Rurumiso from Zimbabwe, to handle the Q&A sections that you can post on the comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, to our speakers. I'd like to thank you for the fantastic presentation. I really learned so much about the politics in your country. To introduce myself, my name is Rurumiso Mashumba. I am the Africa lead for the Global Farmer Network. And today I'm excited to sit with these phenomenal farmers and just ask a few more questions that our audience have been asking as you have been presenting. Judy, thank you so much for your fantastic presentation. I was looking at your farm and thinking, wow, this is absolutely beautiful, especially with the severe droughts that we're seeing in Zimbabwe. I was just wishing my farm could be as green as yours. You really emphasize the importance of involving farmers in policy formation, because I think most of the times farmers you forget the importance of your voice in policy formation, and you just focus so much on farming, and you forget that the policies that are going to be put out there are going to really impact the work you're doing. So you really emphasize some very important comments there. So I would like to ask you a question. So how have you managed to involve politicians? Because you mentioned that you invite a lot of politicians to your farm. Has it been difficult to, like we know politicians are very busy. How have you managed to get them to be really interested in the work you're doing?
Yes, so it wasn't really that hard, to be honest. And it's not only politicians that visit my farm, but also policy makers. And I guess those is a really important group as well. Sometimes it's just knowing people, and I have a background in political science and public administration myself. So I do also speak their language, as I would say. And I also like to talk about opportunities and not only complaining about policy. So and once you're on the radar, I would say, they know you and they often call me, can we come on over and visit your farm and have a look around? So it's, and I'm not afraid to be really open. They can ask me for anything, and I'm not afraid to talk about emotions as well, but also present opportunities and solutions to them. So to me, it's not really difficult to get in touch with them and invite them over. No.
That's great, Judith. And the fact that you have a background in politics, you really understand the language, which a lot of our farmers don't necessarily have understanding of, and really something that as farmers we need to build and understand the voice of the farmer, which is what we're discussing today. So do you work with other farmers as well? I know you're part of the Global Farmer Network, but are you working with other local farmers to really support them to also share their voices and views in terms of different policies?
Yeah, so I'm a part of Team Agro NL. It's a national organization and it's a foundation actually, so everything is voluntarily work. And our main goal is to bring positive stories about farming and food production and share what we do. So one of the projects that we're actually running nationally, but also in my provincial area, is have a traineeship. So policy makers are having a traineeship for a day at the farm. So in my case, they start at 6 in the morning, milk together with me, and then we have a coffee, breakfast, and doing all kind of different jobs on the farm. But in the meantime, we talk a lot about farming and the beautiful life that we're living actually. And it's so special. And at the same time, they can see the practice. And I can share, you see this water, for example, for somebody from the water authority, you see this, it means that it's coming from this regulation or law. So it's really good for building connections, because that's really important, that you build on the relationship as well. And within the traineeship, you can do so. But it's not only that policymakers come to my farm. I also come to the Department of Ag to talk about things. I think making sure that the relationship is good and creating an informal network where they can get knowledge is really, really important.
Oh, that's fantastic. So the importance of storytelling, we really forget that, when you tell stories, and here in this case, you're actually bringing them to the farm and they're experiencing. So when you are lobbying out there to say this is the sort of policies we need because this will better our farming, they understand because they've experienced it. I really love that. We should do more of that as farmers. And just another one is, are you seeing any new perspectives for farmers in terms of elections? What changes are you currently seeing?
Yeah, the first of all, it is feeling. And I guess a lot of farmers didn't felt appreciated anymore for years, because, to put it a little bit short, black and white, they say farmers are causing troubles when it comes to the environment, and now they feel appreciated anymore. And our government has more people now in it. For example, we have a farmer citizen movement that's part of our government. There's a lot of people that actually understand farming. So that is really helpful as well when it comes to the feeling. And in short term, there's still challenges, especially when it comes to manure, for example, because laws or regulations don't change in a day. But for the longer term, yes, we see a lot of opportunities and a better perspective for farmer when it comes to creating a strategic view, a long-term view on agriculture and food production. And something I mentioned in my presentation, making sure that also outcome is rewarded, like nature services. So there's definitely new perspectives after the elections, and definitely in the Netherlands, yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. And we're wishing you all the best as you continue to share the voice, authentic voice of the farmer to people who represent us in agriculture, but may not necessarily be on the ground. This is very important. So Subhashu, thank you so much for your presentation. I felt like I was with you in India there, and especially when you shared the statistic that 65% of people are involved in agriculture. Here in Zimbabwe, we also have such a large number. So are you seeing these voices also influencing politics, or people just speaking in private on the challenges they face in terms of pricing and all sorts of other challenges that farmers face that really should go up to politicians to form policies? Are you seeing that happening as well, like what Judith shared in Netherlands? You are muted.
Yeah, it's nearly same as Judith has said, that what she's experiencing, we are experiencing the same thing out here. We do get a lot to interact with politicians a lot. In the same way, a lot of politicians come to visit my farm. A lot of government agencies send, in the last 4 years, 9,000 farmers have visited my farm. So it works out that way. When people come and see what you're doing, our local universities, they send these youngsters, students, final year students, to do internship on my farm. They come and spend the whole day at the farm. And the new trend that we are seeing in India is this subtle shift from cereal crops to horticultural crops. So this is where all the policy is being made nowadays, other than the basics of setting up cold chains, setting up systems from farm to fork. Of course, there's a chicken and egg problem out here. Do you set the infrastructure first and then the farmers move into horticultural products, or the other way around, and this is catching up game is going on. Because of these new things that we are trying, especially with fruits, a lot of policymakers do call us for meetings at the highest levels to find out how someone had posted about youth in agriculture. So we are experiencing earlier in India, the youth always thinks that agriculture is non-numerative and you're not getting enough return for any youth to delve into agriculture. But now, since we've shifted to horticulture, there's a marked shift from maize and wheat and paddy in the income in agriculture. Actually, in horticulture, it increases by around 100%, 200%, 300%, depending upon which premium fruit you're doing. Like if I'm doing dragon fruit or let's say avocado or something, I mean, it's mind boggling the returns. So when the youth is seeing this return now, slowly in the last 3 to 4 years, even with the government emphasizing on precision agriculture, technology in agriculture, climate resilient technology. So now the youth is being attracted, and we see a lot of startups happening in India where a lot of people are providing farm services, warehousing services right at the grassroots village level. And that is impacting policy, and it's forcing the politicians to think in a different way from the traditional way that we are doing agriculture.
Thank you for that. That's very interesting. And I really like how you emphasize the importance of young people and their involvement in agriculture. People always ask, how can we involve young people in agriculture? And you just stated it accurately to say, as long as there is opportunity, there's money to be made, young people will go into agriculture. And our government is seeing that, because I'm sure government also has a role to ensure that the young people are the next generation is also involved to allow for the sustainability and also to reduce unemployment. And when young people are involved in agriculture, that is an employment avenue that is opened up and employing a lot of young people. So very interesting to hear about how advanced India is and how you're moving a lot from these cereal crops and into horticulture, which is earning more money for the farmers. But in terms of has there ever been like challenges where farmers feel that their voices are not being heard enough? And is there anything that is currently being done or to ensure that those voices are heard more? What sort of platforms are you using besides bringing the farmers? Do you also sit down and have dialogue before policies is formulated in India, yourself or with other farmers?
Yes, like government makes it a business to invite farmers for pre-budgetary meets. So when a budget is going to be read out in Parliament, before that they go through this huge exercise of meeting all the stakeholders, asking for advice or suggestions right from the grassroots level right up to the national level, to the apex body. Farmers are members of all these bodies. They are called in to give their suggestions, and sooner or later policy changes take place. In India, farmers are a little bolder. They don't take time to get to the streets and start jamming highways and agitating, and they are very loud when they agitate. And a lot of time it scares the government into action. So we are seeing a lot of that happening in the past 5, 7 years, 10 years.
That's really good. And it's good to know that the farmers really are speaking up for themselves. Because even as I speak to lots of farmers here who are from other countries, like in Zimbabwe, there's so many things that we agitate on price and imports versus local production. And really, we need to ensure that our voices are also heard, and learning so much from you. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Moving on to Jose Louis. You're a young farmer yourself. What would you say, are young farmers involved enough in Mexico?
Well, thank you for the question. I think right now, in my perspective, that we are not getting involved enough, but we are in a good pathway, because I'm seeing some initiatives from other organizations to keep the young people in this track, in this pathway. For example, I just see a webinar for like young farmers, influencers, I think, to amplify also their voice. Something like the GFN initiatives. And so I see that young people is still doing things in this way. And also some initiatives that I want to get highlight is we need to keep agriculture like dynamic. We need to keep agriculture in a continuous improvement perspective. Why? Because for some young people, agriculture can be like doing the same things every year, but it's not in that way. We need to change that mindset to a way that we understand that every year we can do different things. We can implement research like initiatives, projects of doing different things, and that's why I focus and I get in deep in this continuous improvement perspective. And that's the way we can keep the agriculture in young farmers interesting. We also need to amplify the perspective of our young people looking forward in other countries about new technologies. For example, Argentina is a good example of doing different things, and also that initiative of Upper Seed or Young Upper Seed group is a good example of what we must implement in our countries, specifically in Mexico. So I think that that's my perspective right now about young farmers' experiences.
Definitely. So, in terms of like the percentage of young farmers in Mexico who are involved in agriculture, is there lots of succession or do you see lots of leadership, like politicians coming in to really put in initiatives that are promoting succession or young people coming to go back into agriculture? Or maybe even what Subhashu said, that the young people are being motivated because there's, instead of just the primary production, there's also other avenues, like you mentioned, tech, that young farmers can be involved with and still be contributing to agriculture.
Yeah, well, I was just yesterday talking about that topic with a friend of mine from the GFM team, Ricardo Chaus, that is also a Mexican farmer, a young Mexican farmer. And we are talking about that we must get involved in politics and to um, to be more people involved in politics, because at least as we saw in this last election period, uh, locally in the state region, we don't see a lot of farmers profiles in the in these spaces, like where people are reaching a politic position. So at least for the next 3 years, we need to get prepared to push someone or push ourselves to be part of these activities on policy makers, and in that way.
Thank you very much. So we're now almost coming to the end. I have a few questions that the audience have been asking. Some of them are a little bit technical. So they're also asking, would you mind sharing your LinkedIn posts, if you don't mind, in the comments section? You can send it to us and then we can share it around, if that's okay for further questions after this. But as we conclude, maybe we can have like just a few remarks from each of our speakers in terms of what you're seeing the future of agriculture looking like, especially when we are pressed with so many changes happening globally. We have climate change. We are faced with prices being not increasing for farmers. What would you say, just a one voice to encourage other farmers here to become the voice of farmers? And also, if there's any platforms you're using that you found to work best, if it's YouTube, if it's LinkedIn, maybe you can also share that. Maybe we'll just give each of our speakers 2 minutes just to round off with their last remarks. Judith, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I guess for us, it's really important as farmers that we stay connected, not only speak but also listen to what are the concerns. And it's something also Jose Luis said, that we've seen that more farmers are getting involved in politics, and I guess that's a really good thing, that we have to push ourselves to be involved when it comes to politics, and keep on talking and keep on listening, but also staying positive, because the changes go really fast. What's good enough today isn't good enough tomorrow. So it's really important to stay positive about your farm and what you're doing, and trying to seek for opportunities as well, and look for things that's keeping you happy, so you don't forget your passion about farming as well, and making sure that you work together, so you're not alone at the farm. And like you said earlier, we're so busy. I work 7 days a week, and I don't mind, because this is my passion, this is my life. But it's really important that there's a positive network around us that helps us, and we can help together, and building relationship with the community, with customers, and with politicians and policymakers. So I guess it's really important to have a focus on the future, stay positive, and seek for opportunities, and for the things in life that gives us energy, and stay in touch with people. Yeah.
Thank you
Pretty
very much. Yeah, no, that's very important. Thank you so much.
Should I come in?
Yes, please.
I just want to build upon that youth and agriculture, because that is so important in India, because we have a huge 55% of people who are aged 22, 28 to 30. And unless they do not get into agriculture, agriculture will become redundant in India. And I have this take on 3 criteria needs to be fulfilled for the youth to get into agriculture. And they are, first and foremost, instant gratification. Because the youth is so impatient and restless, they want instant gratification. And traditional agriculture is not providing instant gratification. The youth does not want drudgery. And thanks to technology, that thing is also being taken care of. And the third, the youth wants glamour in what they are doing. They have to consider that job glamorous enough for them to enter. And since we've moved into horticulture and premium fruits, and the returns are coming, so I can see in my local area, suddenly the youth has become interested in agriculture, and they are trying to adopt the premium agriculture, because they have that stamina to invest and do something new, which the elderly farmers can't do because they are too much in the rut. So this is my take on the future of agriculture in India. Depends on youth joining agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, for me, I think that we are changing that narrative about like the profile of a farmer. I think that, for example, other generations think that we are just up to rice food, but right now in the future, and also in the present, we are not just that kind of people. We are people with ability or capacity of managing a business, to do some exports to other countries. We are basically a businessman, and we need to change our mindset about how is the profile of the farmer. And we also need to change the perspective that we must be in that round tables, sharing our experiences and sharing our needs when they are going to do some decisions on the politics. And we also be so involved in that specific aspects about technology. We also need to look in the future to get involved to that transfer departments of the in research centers about hearing us of which specific problems are we facing, and to do a partnership with them to get that technology as faster as they and we can. And as both of my partners said, we need to keep working on that partnership with other farmers. I think that we need to change also that mindset that we are not alone. We are a team in this life, and we are a worldwide community that we need to also grow it more. Take other people, other farmers to this group and amplify more and more our voices. So that's my perspective about this question.
Thank you so much. And that's a very, very important perspective. Again, to our speakers, we're so grateful for having you today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I'm in your countries with you and really just sitting down and having coffee and just hearing the amazing work you're doing. I'm totally inspired, and I'm sure so many of our audiences have been. There's so many comments. So if you have time and you see a comment that relates to something that you were speaking on, please go ahead and answer. Again, thank you very much to our viewers. We're always excited to see you online asking comments and really challenging us to think about better perspectives of farming and looking at things in a different way. So thank you to everyone, and thank you so much to Gina, my co-host today. I would like to let you all know that we're continuing this exciting conversation. The next webinar is on the 8th of August, so you can write it down so that you don't forget. You can also follow us on our social media handles. And our website is www.globalfarmernetwork.org. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel where you can share these recordings with your fellow farmers who were not able to join us today. That is it from me, and enjoy the rest of your day. If it's evening, enjoy the rest of your evening. And until next time, goodbye.